Welcome to today's deep dive. If you're listening to this right now, chances are you're juggling, like a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right. You're probably trying to advance your career, maintain this vibrant social life, cultivate a perfect romantic relationship, stay, remarkably fit, and maybe nurture a side hustle.
All while trying to stay perfectly zen, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then society constantly tells you that this is normal, right? That having it all is not just possible, but it's basically mandatory.
Yeah, it's the baseline expectation now.
But today, we are taking on a mission to completely dismantle that idea. We're diving into a really provocative, intensely philosophical 2021 essay by an author named Xu Feng.
It's such a fascinating piece.
It really is. It's wonderfully titled, Tigers Will Not Grow Wings on Their Backs. And it maps out this radical internal journey that completely challenges everything modern hustle culture demands of us.
Right.
So to kick off this exploration, I want you to visualize the central metaphor of this text. Just imagine a tiger.
Okay, apex predator.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Master of stealth, raw power. Now, imagine that same tiger suddenly sprouts a massive set of wings.
Terrifying.
Right. It can soar silently through the clouds, swoop down from the sky. And to make it even more dominant, imagine it can reproduce like a dog or a pig.
Wait, really?
Yeah, giving birth to a dozen cubs in a single litter.
I mean, the visual is striking, obviously, but the biological implications are really what make the metaphor function here.
Right.
Because if that creature were dropped into any existing ecosystem on Earth, the immediate result would just be absolute structural collapse.
Yeah, I mean, how could anything survive that?
It couldn't. A hyper-reproducing aerial apex predator would just consume every available resource at an exponential rate. And, the author points this out early in the text to establish a fundamental law of physics and biology.
Which is?
That life just cannot be perfectly optimized in every single direction simultaneously. The food chain would vanish. Human survival itself would become an open question.
Wow. Yeah, nature wouldn't allow it.
Exactly. Nature actively prevents the tiger from having wings because it prioritizes global equilibrium over, the infinite optimization of a single creature.
And the essay uses that extreme biological impossibility to set up this really profound psychological reality.
Yeah, it's a great pivot.
Because we all inherently understand why the winged tiger can't exist in the wild, right?
Right.
But we somehow develop this massive blind spot when it comes to our own lives. We act as if human capacity is somehow exempt from that rule of equilibrium.
We really do.
Okay, let's unpack this because the author makes a very direct pivot from the animal kingdom to the realm of human ambition.
Right. And he uses a really specific example here.
Yeah, the Nobel Prize-winning scientists.
Yeah.
The text brings them up to illustrate what actual world-changing success requires.
Because they aren't doing everything all at once.
Not at all. When you look at the people who push the boundaries of human knowledge, they do not live these multi-hyphenate lifestyles. They operate in almost total obscurity for decades.
Yeah.
They spend countless hours in laboratories, hyper-fixated on a single, super narrow mystery of the material universe. I mean, their success is a product of singular, almost punishing devotion.
Exactly. And the author uses the Nobel laureate to draw a really sharp contrast against our modern kind of fragmented ambitions.
Like trying to be everything to everyone.
Right. The text asks us to consider this hypothetical person who wants to be a widely recognized star, a massively successful corporate entrepreneur, a high-ranking government official, and a Nobel-winning scientist.
All at once.
All at the exact same time. And I mean, obviously, the physical demands of time and energy make this impossible.
Yeah, there aren't enough hours in the day.
But what's fascinating here is that the psychological demands are even more destructive. You're basically asking a single human brain to run entirely different operational paradigms.
How so?
Well, think about it. The politician has to constantly manage optics and public opinion, but the scientist must actively ignore public opinion to focus entirely on objective, unvarnished data.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, you literally cannot run both of those operating systems simultaneously.
It's like trying to maximize the processing power of a computer by opening every single heavy application at the same time.
Yes. perfect analogy.
You aren't making the computer more powerful. You're just guaranteeing that the system is going to crash.
Right.
And we see this constantly in the modern workforce.
Mm-hmm.
People are told to build a personal brand, manage a massive team, stay on top of industry trends, be thought leaders. I mean, they're trying to be a soaring bird and a fierce tiger at the exact same time.
And the essay offers a very specific, honestly pretty dark diagnosis for what happens when a person attempts to operate like this.
Yeah, it doesn't hold back.
No, it argues that coveting too much across too many domains doesn't just lead to like a busy schedule or temporary burnout.
Right.
The text states that this extreme greed leads to absolute failure and successive worries, culminating in what the English translation refers to as schizophrenia.
Which is a heavy word to use.
It is, and in the philosophical context of this essay, it's not a clinical medical diagnosis. It's more a description of a completely fractured mind.
A mind that's just torn apart.
Exactly. When you tear your identity and your focus into 4 completely contradictory directions, your reality splits. You lose the ability to parse the world coherently because you're evaluating every situation through completely conflicting lenses.
The system crashes because you're demanding an evolutionary impossibility.
Yeah.
And if our ambition tricks us into thinking we can be a winged tiger in our own careers, the test argues it becomes even more destructive when we project that expectation onto other people.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the author points this concept of greedy ambition directly at romantic expectations.
This part is so revealing.
It really is. The essay explicitly outlines the contradictory demands that some men place on the concept of an ideal woman.
Right, the impossible list.
The impossible list.
Yeah.
Society expects this hypothetical partner to be beautiful, sexy, charming, gentle, considerate, and eternally loyal.
And that's just the start.
Right. She's supposed to be a flawless domestic manager who cooks perfectly and entertains guests with grace.
But wait, there's more.
There is. Simultaneously, she must have a highly successful career, conquering the corporate world and bringing in massive amounts of wealth.
Unbelievable.
And while she's somehow managing this high-stress corporate empire and maintaining a flawless home, she must remain constantly available to sit beside her husband, serve him tea, and attend to all his emotional needs.
I mean, the contradiction is entirely transparent when you lay it out sequentially like that.
It's hilarious, honestly.
Right, you're looking at a demand for 2 mutually exclusive lives to be lived by the same person in the exact same 24-hour window.
Yeah.
The high-powered corporate executive is required to travel, to make ruthless decisions, to prioritize the firm above personal comfort. But the gentle, constantly available domestic servant is required to abandon all external ambition to prioritize the immediate environment. Expecting these traits to seamlessly coexist in one human being is identical to walking into a forest and expecting to find a tiger with feathers.
It's a demand for a localized reality distortion field.
Yes, perfectly put.
You want the financial benefits and the social prestige of a modern dual-income partnership, but you refuse to let go of the comforts of a 1950s agrarian domestic structure.
Exactly.
It's this profound form of temporal greed. And it really forces you to look at your own relationships or even your expectations of your friends and colleagues.
We do this all the time.
We do. We constantly demand that our colleagues be ruthlessly efficient and highly productive, while simultaneously expecting them to be infinitely patient, emotionally available, and entirely stress-free in every single meeting.
And the author's ultimate point here is that as long as you're searching for the winged tiger in others, you're anchored to an illusion. You're trapping yourself in this cycle of perpetual disappointment because you're holding reality against a standard that literally violates the laws of nature.
Wow.
And this acts as the structural pivot of the essay. Having systematically identified and stripped away these impossible worldly demands, the text shifts to outline what a person should actually pursue.
So, what does this all mean? If we abandon the myth of having it all,
Right.
what actually replaces it?
Right.
The text introduces the concept of trekking to the peak of life, and they capitalize the second life to signify a higher spiritual or philosophical plane and ultimately reaching heaven.
But getting there is not easy.
No. Getting to the starting line of this ascent requires a massive radical subtraction. To even begin the journey, the author states you must say goodbye to desires for money, power, fame, profit, status, and carnal bliss.
It requires entering what the author calls the state of zero.
The state of zero.
Yeah. And this isn't merely a suggestion to live minimally, like decluttering your house.
Right.
It's an absolute mandate to possess nothing and become entirely selfless. And once this climb begins, the text lays out strict parameters for your attention.
What kind of parameters?
You are forbidden from looking back at what you left behind, and you are forbidden from looking around to compare your progress to anyone else's. Your focus must remain absolutely fixed on the forward path.
So, to anyone living in a modern consumer society, reaching a state of zero sounds like completely giving up.
It does. It sounds like defeat.
But think about the mechanics of extreme mountain climbing, like free climbing the sheer face of Mount Everest.
Okay.
When you're standing at the base, looking up at that vertical wall of ice, every single thing you carry has a gravitational cost.
Right.
You aren't going to pack a heavy briefcase full of cash because up on that cliff face, currency has absolutely no utility. It's just dead weight that will literally pull you off the wall.
The analogy holds up really well because the state of zero is fundamentally about cognitive bandwidth.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, the weight the text refers to isn't just physical property. It's the immense mental processing power required to maintain your ego.
Wow, yeah.
If you care about status, you are constantly spending energy monitoring how others perceive you. If you care about power, you're constantly calculating leverage.
Right.
Every desire you hold on to acts as a background application draining your battery. So stripping away these desires frees up the absolute maximum amount of cognitive and spiritual energy necessary for the climb.
But the text takes a turn here that fundamentally shifts the narrative.
It really does.
Because once you drop all the external baggage, you naturally assume the climb itself, like the external journey will be the brutal part.
Right, the mountain itself.
But the author reveals that the true obstacles aren't on the mountain at all. The most dangerous elements of this trek exist entirely inside the climber's mind.
The source outlines a phase of the journey it calls an inner purgatory.
Inner purgatory.
Yeah, and it is characterized by intense hesitation, anxiety, pain, fear, and a profound lack of confidence. The obstacles are entirely internal.
Wow.
And surviving them requires navigating an environment of absolute terrifying isolation.
Which is so harsh.
It is. The text explicitly warns the reader not to expect any understanding or support from their social circle. It states clearly that it's impossible for those around you to comprehend your journey, and that you should consider yourself lucky if they simply ignore you, rather than actively trying to pull you back down to their level.
See, this is where I have to strongly challenge the philosophy of this text.
Okay, let's hear it.
The essay says you'll taste despair to the point of considering suicide, and that you will not have the time or energy to explain yourself, complain, or seek revenge against those who pull at you.
Right.
But looking at this through the lens of human biology and psychology, we are fundamentally pack animals. Our nervous systems are wired for connection. Throughout evolutionary history, being ostracized from the group meant literal death in the wild. We survive intense trauma and profound personal growth precisely because we lean on our communities for support.
Right, we need our people.
So why does this philosophy mandate such an extreme, traumatic isolation as a prerequisite for reaching a higher state? It just sounds unnecessarily destructive.
Well, the text argues for this isolation precisely because of the evolutionary biology you just mentioned.
Really?
Yes. We are wired to seek the safety of the pack, but the author posits that the pack is exactly what keeps you tethered to the ground.
Oh, wow.
When we rely on our community for emotional support during a period of transformation, we are often subconsciously moderating our growth to ensure we don't alienate the group.
That is so true. We don't want to get too weird for our friends.
Exactly. The community acts as an ego buffer. If you rely on them to validate your journey, you are still operating under the demands of your ego. The inner purgatory is designed to be destructive. It's designed to systematically destroy that pack animal ego.
You're saying the isolation isn't a side effect of the climb. It's the actual mechanism that burns away the need for external validation.
That's exactly the dynamic the text describes. Look at the specific actions the author says you'll lack the energy to do. Explaining yourself, complaining, getting angry, and seeking revenge.
Okay.
What do all four of those actions have in common?
They involve other people.
Yes, and they are all desperate defenses of the ego. When you explain yourself, you're begging the pack to understand you. When you complain, you're demanding that reality conform to your preferences.
Oh, that's heavy.
And anger and revenge are retaliations against those who fail to respect your perceived status. By forcing you into a psychological space where you're entirely depleted of the energy required to perform these ego defenses, the purgatory burns away the final remnants of your vanity. You literally lose the capacity to care about how the pack perceives you.
That reframes the entire concept of the inner purgatory. It isn't a punishment at all. It's a brutal, necessary fasting period for the ego. You starve the ego of the validation it needs to survive, and when it finally dies, you're actually free to climb.
Right.
But surviving that level of psychological starvation requires an incredibly efficient use of whatever small amount of spiritual energy you have left.
Yes. You have to conserve everything.
And the text concludes by explaining exactly how you preserve that energy, and it centers on completely severing your emotional ties to the past.
This is the final requirement for maintaining the state of zero. The author delivers a really stark command.
Oh.
We must never have regrets.
Never.
Never. The text explains that regret actively ruins our good memories and, crucially, drains the spiritual power required to move toward a beautiful time and space.
Right.
The author categorizes all past blood, sweat, tears, hardships, grievances, and moments of helplessness simply as history.
And the essay specifically refers to history as a heavy burden. Let's look at the actual mechanism of regret for a second. What happens in your brain when you regret a past decision? You're essentially spinning up a highly complex, neurologically expensive simulation of an alternate reality.
Oh, yeah.
You're forcing your brain to calculate what your life would look like if you had taken a different job, or married a different person, or avoided a specific mistake.
Which takes so much effort.
Exactly. That calculation requires massive amounts of cognitive load, and it produces absolutely zero forward momentum. It's like revving a car engine while the transmission is in neutral. You burn a massive amount of fuel, but you don't move an inch.
The text recognizes that metabolic drain perfectly. It states that with the heavy burden of history on your back, it's impossible to move lightly, impossible to walk the long way required, and impossible to reach the ideal destination.
Yeah.
The essay provides a guiding motto to lock this mindset into place. For the past, no regrets. To the future, firm faith.
For the past, no regrets. To the future, firm faith. If you combine that with our mountain climbing analogy, the desires for future wealth and status are the heavy grand pianos you refuse to drag up the cliff. Right? But your past regrets and historical grievances are a backpack full of jagged rocks.
Yeah.
Every time you ruminate on a past failure or an old unfairness, you're picking up another rock and putting it in your bag. If you refuse to empty the bag, the sheer physics of the climb will defeat you.
Looking at the structure of Zhu Feng's entire argument, the symmetry of this philosophy becomes incredibly apparent.
It really ties together perfectly.
It does. In the opening sections, the winged tiger represented our impossible demands on the future, the greedy illusion that we can possess every form of success and every ideal trait simultaneously.
Yes.
And here in the concluding sections, regret represents our impossible demand on the past, the illusion that we can retroactively alter history. Both are fundamental denials of the present reality.
Wow.
By consciously dropping our impossible future demands and by ruthlessly cutting away our impossible past regrets, we finally achieve the true state of zero. We're perfectly centered in the absolute present, unburdened by history, undistracted by vanity, and possessing nothing but the firm faith required to move upward.
It's an intense, highly demanding framework for looking at your life.
Very.
So to summarize the massive terrain we've covered today, first, we have to look objectively at the myth of the winged tiger and accept that demanding to have it all or demanding that our partners be it all is a recipe for a fractured mind.
Absolutely.
Second, we have to accept the necessity of the state of zero, deliberately shedding our attachments to status and external validation. Third, we have to endure the isolation of the inner purgatory, allowing our desperate need for the pack's approval to burn away entirely.
Right.
And finally, we must drop the heavy burden of our history, recognizing that regret is a useless drain on the energy we need to climb.
It's a philosophy that requires stripping away almost everything we're taught to value.
Yeah.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to consider regarding the ultimate nature of this philosophy. We've spent this entire deep dive discussing the state of zero, and the text explicitly defines it as a state of possessing nothing. In a society obsessed with accumulation, we naturally interpret zero as a terrifying void, an empty space of total lack.
Of course.
But if we follow the logic of this essay to its absolute conclusion, perhaps the state of zero isn't a void at all.
What do you mean?
Well, if you truly shed all your worldly desires, meaning you can no longer be bought or bribed, if you let go of your ego's need for validation, meaning you can no longer be socially pressured or embarrassed,
Right.
and if you successfully drop all the heavy burdens of your past regrets, meaning you can no longer be haunted or blackmailed by your own history, perhaps zero is the only state where a human being becomes entirely unshakable.
Oh, wow.
Because a person who has absolutely nothing left to lose, no ego to protect, and no past to regret is a person who cannot be manipulated, frightened, or stamped by anything in this world. What would your life look like if you woke up tomorrow and operated from that impenetrable fortress of zero?
That concept completely changes the definition of power. The winged tiger is a myth that will tear you apart, but the strength you can find in the state of zero is an absolute reality.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Take a hard look at the invisible weight you're carrying around with you right now. Keep exploring, keep questioning the demands society places on you, and whatever mountain you're facing, keep climbing.